Chapter 1. The Laboratory Nation and the Crime of Speaking Wrong. Welcome, students, victims, and accidental tourists who clicked this video thinking it was another glossy celebration of Singaporean excellence. It is not. Stay anyway. Your algorithm already betrayed you. Singapore loves one word more than GDP, more than property prices, more than its own citizens. That word is efficiency. Efficiency is the national religion. Efficiency is the excuse. Efficiency is the reason your childhood was optimized, compressed, standardized, and quietly stripped of anything inconvenient, including the way you speak. Enter Singlish. Singlish is not just a dialect. That is the first lie they teach you. Singlish is memory. Singlish is class. Singlish is rebellion, disguised as casual conversation. And that is precisely why it had to be disciplined. From the moment you entered school, language stopped being communication and became compliance. English was not taught as a living tool. It was taught as a filter. Pronounce correctly or be corrected. Speak naturally or be downgraded. Sound local or sound stupid. Efficiency hates ambiguity. Singlish is ambiguity incarnate. So the system did what efficient systems always do. It simplified. It standardized. It shaved off rough edges until what remained was globally acceptable, locally hollow, and emotionally sterile. Congratulations. You now speak excellent English and feel absolutely nothing while doing so. They told you Singlish would hold you back, that it would embarrass you on the world stage, that global investors would flee at the sound of la, as if hedge funds run on vibes and not tax incentives. But something strange happened along the way. The more perfect the English became, the more cautious the thinking grew. The more standardized the speech, the safer the ideas became. The classroom turned into a factory. The factory produced resumes. The resumes produced silence. Efficiency does not create innovators. It creates error avoiders. And error avoiders do not invent futures. They wait for instructions. This is the part where defenders start panicking. But our test scores, they cry. But our rankings. Yes, congratulations on winning the global exam nobody remembers 5 years later. The prize is a lifetime of fearing wrong answers, wrong accents, wrong thoughts. Singlish was messy. Singlish was playful. Singlish was context-heavy and hierarchy-light. It allowed sarcasm, compression, double meanings. In other words, it trained the brain to bend. That is why it was dangerous. An efficient society cannot tolerate linguistic freedom. Free language produces free interpretation. Free interpretation produces dissent. Dissent is inefficient, so they didn't ban Singlish. That would look ugly. They did something far more elegant. They shamed it. And shame is the most efficient tool of all. If this opening made you uncomfortable, good. That means the conditioning is still wearing off. Subscribe. Like the video. Do it before efficiency convinces you this was a waste of time. Chapter 2. Accent as class, fluency as obedience. Let's stop pretending this is about language. It never was. Singapore did not suppress Singlish because it was inefficient. Singapore suppressed Singlish because it revealed too much about who belongs, about who leads, about who gets corrected and who does the correcting. Accent is class wearing a phonetic disguise. In theory, everyone in Singapore speaks English. In practice, not all English is equal. There is English that opens doors and English that politely escorts you back to the service entrance. Same vocabulary, different social outcomes. The education system calls this meritocracy. That is adorable. From primary school onward, children learn a very specific lesson. Not math, not science. The real lesson is this: sounding right matters more than being right. Fluency is not communication. Fluency is obedience with good pronunciation. Singlish speakers are not punished overtly. That would be inefficient. They are simply nudged, corrected, smiled at, marked down for clarity, rewritten by teachers who swear they are helping, and so children learn to self-edit before they think. This is how you build a society where people wait to see if an idea is acceptable before deciding whether it is true. The irony is delicious. Singapore advertises itself as a global hub of innovation while training its population to avoid linguistic risk. Startups are encouraged. Verbal deviation is not. You may disrupt industries, but please do not disrupt syntax. Investors love this, by the way. Nothing scares capital like personality. Singlish had tone. It had compression. It carried social intelligence that cannot be translated into PowerPoint English. It allowed critique without confrontation, humor without permission, resistance without slogans. That is exactly why it does not survive well inside classrooms designed like production lines. And let's be honest, the people most offended by Singlish are rarely the people most fluent in anything else. They speak global English, with the confidence of someone who has never been misunderstood and the imagination of someone who has never tried. Meanwhile, students graduate with immaculate grammar and an internal censor strong enough to silence original thought before it reaches the tongue. Efficiency achieved. At this point, some of you are feeling defensive. That's fine. Defense is a trained response. Others are nodding quietly and pretending this isn't personal. It is. If this chapter is irritating you, excellent. That irritation is cultural memory trying to resurface. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Algorithms reward compliance. We might as well exploit it while we dismantle it. Chapter 3. The Creativity Myth and the Factory of Safe Minds. Singapore loves to say it wants creativity. This is adorable. Like a prison announcing it now encourages interpretive dance. Creativity, in official speeches, is always mentioned right after productivity, right before innovation, and never anywhere near actual risk. Creativity is framed as something you add on after efficiency, like garnish on a perfectly engineered meal nobody enjoys eating. Here's the inconvenient truth. You cannot mass-produce creativity in a system that punishes deviation at age 7. By the time students reach university, the damage is already elegantly complete. They are fluent, polite, and terrified of being wrong in public. They ask questions that sound correct instead of questions that matter. They propose ideas that fit rubrics rather than challenge assumptions. This is not a bug. This is the output. Singlish, for all its alleged flaws, encouraged lateral thinking. It allowed shortcuts, irony, shared context, and compressed meaning. You didn't need to explain everything. You assumed intelligence. You trusted the listener. Standardized English does not trust anyone. It spells everything out. It flattens nuance. It makes sure nobody can misunderstand, which conveniently ensures nobody interprets anything too deeply either. The education system praises critical thinking, while quietly defining which thoughts are acceptable to critique. Students learn to analyze problems that already have solutions. They are rewarded for insight that arrives safely within expected parameters. The moment creativity threatens hierarchy, it becomes unclear communication. The moment originality threatens efficiency, it becomes unprofessional. This is how you end up with world-class students who hesitate before speaking, engineers who wait for approval, and managers who mistake silence for consensus. And then the state looks around and wonders why genuine innovation keeps coming from messy places, with accents, slang, and social chaos. Spoiler: innovation hates cleanliness. It thrives in linguistic noise, cultural friction, and environments where saying the wrong thing does not end your future. Singapore tried to remove the noise. It also removed the sparks. You can still see Singlish surviving in corners, hawker centres, group chats, late-night conversations where people forget to perform. That's where the real thinking happens. Off-record, unassessed, unoptimized. Which tells you everything. If this chapter made you uncomfortable, that's not offense. That's recognition. The system trained you well, but not well enough to erase instinct entirely. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it quietly if you must. Efficiency prefers silence. We do not. Chapter 4. The economic price of polite silence. Now we talk money, because nothing gets attention faster than pretending this is finally practical. Singapore insists its education system is an economic miracle. Efficient inputs, predictable outputs, high employability, minimal mess. On paper, it looks beautiful. A nation engineered like a spreadsheet. And spreadsheets hate outliers. Here's the problem nobody puts in the annual report. When you train an entire population to speak carefully, you also train them to think cautiously. Cautious thinking is great for compliance-heavy industries. It is terrible for original value creation. Efficiency creates excellent executors. It does not create agenda setters. Singapore produces world-class workers for global companies. That is celebrated. What it produces far less of are companies that redefine industries on their own terms. The country rents itself out as talent, management, logistics, arbitration. Useful roles, lucrative roles, but rarely disruptive ones, and disruption is where obscene money is made. Singlish was not an obstacle to competitiveness, it was a signal of cultural density. Dense cultures generate strange ideas generate new markets generate pricing power. By suppressing linguistic identity, the system optimized for safety. Safety attracts capital, yes. But it also caps upside. Capital likes predictability until someone else invents the future and collects the margins. Look at who takes real risks. Look at who tolerates awkward speech, broken grammar, mixed accents. Those environments look inefficient. They are, and they keep winning anyway. Singapore's graduates often hesitate, not because they lack ideas, but because they have been trained to ask an invisible question first. Is this acceptable? That pause costs time. Time costs momentum. Momentum costs money. Multiply that pause across an entire economy. Efficiency also produces a strange side effect. Everyone sounds globally competent, which means nobody sounds distinctive. Personal branding flattens. Thought leadership becomes recycled phrasing. Best practices. Strategic alignment. Value-added solutions. Language so neutral it could be written by nobody. Investors notice this. Founders notice this. That's why genuinely original ventures often leave, or are mentally imported rather than born locally. The system still works, of course. It just works within a ceiling nobody likes to name. Singlish would not have saved the economy, but suppressing it revealed a deeper instinct. Control tone, control outcomes. That instinct is expensive in the long run. If this chapter annoyed you, good. Economics is supposed to feel personal when it describes your future. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, capital follows attention, and we are stealing some back. Chapter 5. The price of sounding perfect. Let's finish this politely. Singapore would appreciate that. By now, the pattern should be obvious. This was never a war on Singlish. It was a rehearsal for something larger. Language was simply the most efficient place to start. When you control how people speak, you eventually control what they feel safe thinking. When you reward fluency over originality, you don't eliminate mistakes, you eliminate experiments. And experiments are where futures are born. Singapore did not fail. That's the most dangerous part. It succeeded too well. It built a population that can operate any system designed elsewhere, explain it flawlessly in global English, and optimize it to death. What it struggles to do is imagine something that doesn't already exist, because imagination is messy and sounds wrong before it sounds brilliant. Singlish was never about grammar. It was about permission. Permission to compress meaning. Permission to mock hierarchy. Permission to sound human before sounding correct. An efficient education system sees that permission as waste. So now you have a society that speaks beautifully, performs excellently, and hesitates instinctively. A society allergic to embarrassment, where being wrong publicly feels worse than being irrelevant quietly. That is the hidden cost. Not cultural loss, not identity dilution. Those are sentimental complaints. The real cost is strategic timidity, the inability to leap without guarantees, the habit of waiting for validation from systems that reward sameness. And yes, Singapore will continue to thrive. It will rank well. It will attract capital. It will look perfect from the outside. That's the point. Perfection is legible. Originality is not. But every generation that learns to suppress its own voice a little earlier, a little more thoroughly, inherits a narrower future and calls it stability. Singlish still survives, not because the system allows it, but because humans leak, meaning leaks, identity leaks, creativity leaks through jokes, side comments, private chats, and late-night honesty. That leakage is the most hopeful thing left. If this entire series irritated you, unsettled you, or made you defensive, congratulations. That reaction means you are not fully optimized yet. Like the video. Subscribe to the channel. Algorithms adore obedience. We might as well hijack it to talk about disobedience.